Well, welcome to Out of Your League. No John Wilkin Mark this week again. I think you might have left the podcast, actually, Mark. We'll have to have a word with him. I think.
Hopefully,
he's your business partner, isn't he? Have you heard from him at all?
I saw him briefly today. He was in between errands delivering bread around Manchester full of flour. Unfortunately, he left pretty quickly, so I didn't get a chance to speak to him.
No change there. And look, this week we've got Leon and Will Pryce. 2 for the price of 1, Mark. Get it?
Ha ha ha
ha ha ha ha ha. I'm looking forward to this one because it's a great story and everyone knows about Leon's career and everyone I'm sure will know about Will's career in the future if they don't already, because he's taken to Super League he's taken Super League by storm, I should say. But yeah, no John Wilkin. Leon, we should start by saying you played at Saints with John. You played England GB with him as well. Any Wilkin tales to tell while he's not here to defend himself? Because I think that's the best place to do it.
Oh, no, not really. Wilco's a little bit out of my league. He likes hanging around with the big times. He's a bit of a snobby kind of guy, hangs around with the sponsors, the executives, anybody that's high up in the game. Whereas I'm a bit of a down-to-earth guy, keep myself to myself. So he's a little bit out of my social circles.
It's a good answer. Very good answer.
They used to call him the schmoozer because he was just smoozing all the time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's why he's moved to Cheshire, leafy Cheshire. He's from obviously from Hull originally.
League circles. He's an executive guy,
yeah. Professional solicitors, accountants, anything like that. He's got his legs hanging out of their asses at this time.
Will, it's great to have you on, mate. Look, I mean, before we talk about anything more serious, have you actually heard of John Wilkin? Because I'm interested to know what the teenagers think of John Wilkin, if he's still relevant these days.
No, not many at boys speak about him around the hill, but obviously he's good mates with my dad when they played at Saints. Obviously, I know John through him, and he's always nice when I speak to him, so I don't have any bad words.
Good lad. We'll loosen him up. Mark, throughout the next hour. Look, Will, I said taking Super League by storm. You made your debut at 18, so that was only as we're recording now, end of August, 1st of July against Catalan Dragons. You've gone on to play, 10 games, 4 tries, 4 assists. It must be, before we talk about keeping your feet on the ground and all that nonsense and all the boring stuff, it must be amazing. It must feel so exciting for you right now.
Oh yeah, just buzzing. It's really overwhelming and very grateful to get the opportunity and just try to do it and fulfil it as best as I can and not dip my toe in and go full on with it. So yeah. Really buzzing to be where I am at the moment, and just to keep progressing is what I want to carry on doing.
Leon, you were commentating, weren't you? Because that clip kind of went everywhere when Will scored against Wigan, his first Super League try, which was an incredible moment. And I think you had to ground yourself a little bit because you just thought you had to be neutral and you couldn't really show too much emotion. But what was that like, Leon? Not actually the commentating on it, but that moment for you must have been so special.
Yeah, great. Yeah. It's fantastic, yeah. It's like something you always dream of. Is obviously I brought William up around rugby. He's always been to training with me to the games. He's been my number one fan, so to speak. So he's always been around the game, and then he's always played since he was 5 at West Bowling, and then when we moved to France, he played for like the Catalan team around near the area where we played. Then when we came back to England, he played for West Bowling and Siddle. So he's always played rugby. Always been around to the games. Always gone to every game, always watched the game. So in the back of your mind, I'm always thinking, I wonder if he could ever make it full-time Super League. I wonder if he could do it. And, to see the progression and to see, not the struggles, but it's not been handed on a plate to him. He's had to really, really work for it to get to where he is. And to finally get that first try as well against Wigan, and I'm at the game and commentating, it's a bit surreal, really. But I'm trying to keep a lid on it because I'm commentating and don't want to sound like an absolute lunatic. Crackers, which is what I would have done if I'd just been sat with my family. But I've probably tried to downplay it a bit too much. Well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's just the fact that he did it, that's all that matters. Because then he's proven to himself and to everybody else that to himself mainly, that he can do it. He can do it at the top level. Score tries, play against Wigan at 18. It's not something that everybody does. So yeah, we're all absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that because I've probably got a similar kind of experience to Will, because I don't really go on about it around Oldham, but my dad was a much better player than me and played for Oldham, and and Great Britain, and it was a bit of a legend around where I came from. So I know what it's like to have a dad that excelled in the sport and has got a bit of a name. So I can imagine when Will was coming up, you're quite proud that you're from like a rugby league family like the Pryces, and you're very proud. You would have been very proud of your dad and your uncle and everything that they did, but you probably quite selfishly you want to make your own name in the game, and you want to define your own career and not be labelled as just some Leon's son. As I'm still Terry Flanagan's son in Oldham around these parts, and I'm nearly 34. So I think you end up trying that bit more, and you've always got a point to prove. And to doing what you're doing at 18, Will, is incredible. But then I also see what it's like as Leon. I've got my own 2-year-old son, and everyone says to me, "What are you going to take him to the rugby? He's going to be a rugby player like you." And I kind of think, yeah, I'd love to take him to rugby, and I'd love him to do whatever he wants. And if that is rugby, then great. But if he wants to play something else, I bet you're quite protective of Will, weren't you, Leon, as growing up, because you knew the pressure he might be under, and you probably don't want your son to be burdened with unreal expectations sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think from my own observations, I think when I've watched parents that are really pushy and really over the top, it's usually the people that have never ever played top line professional sports. So a lot of parents sometimes live their dreams through their children. Well, I didn't need to. I've not needed to. William's not had to do anything, so I've not to live my life through him. He's seen it firsthand. And the best thing is he's seen the ups, but he's also seen the downs. So, some people look at it with rose-tinted glasses where they think that professional sports all fantastic, and it's really not, is it, Flash?
No, it's not. It's tough.
It's not all. What people see is probably the top 10% of the end products, but they don't see all the miserable down days that you have, the sore, the tiredness, the injuries, the pressure, the nerves, the build-up to games, the after games, not being able to sleep. There's a bit, the hard work, out of form, out of confidence, fall out with your coach, losing games at your clubs. There's a lot more to just standing on the field and winning. So William's seen the bad side of it as well as the good, which for me, I think when you have that perspective, then you can kind of figure it out a lot better for yourself. So I've just guided him, I've pushed him. My number one thing to him has always been, make a name for yourself. I'm not living my life through you. If you don't want to play rugby, stop now. If it's too much, stop. I'm always going to be proud of you, my son. Rugby is just a game, but our relationship and how you live your life is more important to me than a bleeding game. I'd rather you stay out of trouble, do well in your exams, do well in school, and be level-headed and be, like my dad tried to guide me the right way. Every dad wants the son to not be in trouble, not to get hurt, and to have a good living, work hard and make a living for yourself and eventually get a roof over your head until he moves out of here and our house. And I've got to make sure as a dad I'm just protecting him. So rugby's secondary. But at the moment, our main passion in life, as it always has been, is rugby. So to see him excelling in that, then it's a dream come true really for a dad. It's the icing on the cake.
Will, this is all weird for you, isn't it? Because we're talking like you're not in the room, mate, and you are here. And it's time to have your say. I mean, look, Mark mentioned, I think, or your dad mentioned there about West Bowling at the age of 5, and then of course when your dad moved to south of France, you followed him down and saw what it was like down there with Catalan Dragons, etc. I mean, Mark mentioned being the son of a rugby league superstar, and you're in the same shoes. Mark wouldn't have had any respect from his father had he not played rugby league. He would have taken him up to Saddleworth Moors and buried him with all the other bodies that are knocking about up there as well. So
that's the kind of route. He told you that.
Yeah,
one?
No, he did. He did tell me that. Yeah, he did tell me that. Yeah, but I mean, Will, did you feel like you had options, or from your point of view? Because I always find sometimes in sport the pushy dads don't think they're pushy, Leon. So let's see what Will says. Did you feel that you had options when you were a kid, or did you feel like you wanted and had to? Not follow in your dad's footsteps, but make yourself a name in the game as well.
No, not really. Like he's already said, but when I was younger, like coming through the age of around 11, 12, when I was just starting high school, my main priority were to do good in school and to make sure that when I leave school, I had my exams and got all my grades were good. So for that, realistically, from the age of 11 to 16, it was to make sure that school would come first and rugby would come second. If I wasn't doing good in school, then I probably wouldn't get to go play rugby on a weekend, which luckily enough for me, it's not rugby wasn't something that he had to push me to do. I really enjoyed it, and I won't be playing Super League, and I won't be playing where I am now if I didn't enjoy it. You know, you see me when I'm playing Super League now. Even though I'm young, I'm still wanting to get crowd involved and jump around with all boys and just have a good laugh. Because for me, that's what it's all about. And although it's serious, it's about enjoying myself out there and making most of it. So even before I was 5, I was going to training with him when he was at Bradford, and going to training with him when he was at Saints. It's just been a passion that I've really enjoyed instead of like a chore for me, really. So I've been quite lucky in that sense.
Will, do you remember a moment, because you must have seen so many great things, and you've seen your dad playing some incredible games and at Wembley Stadium and big stadiums all around the world, but do you remember a moment when your eyes first lit up when it came to rugby league and you thought, this is for me?
I remember once when I was younger, just before we left for France, when my dad was still at Saints, and he played against Wigan in a derby, and I remember it because he talks about it all the time. So he's probably got about five videos on Instagram of it, or his highlights. So yeah, he kicked a 40-20, and then they got a scrum, and he scored off the scrum at Wigan. And that one clip really were a really good moment for him, and even I like watching that video back. And even though I hate to say it,
I've got no choice. I said, listen, I'll always be the big dog. You're only going to be the big dog. I'm the big dog. Don't ever forget it.
No, get to bed.
That one's the one a really good video to watch, and really epitomises what it's all about, really.
When you hear, and Mark, you've been coached by Ian Watson. When you hear Ian Watson, my ears pricked up when he said, "Look, he's got the potential to be a similar player to Sam Tompkins." And Sam Tompkins is a very, very talented player. I take it, Will, you don't want to be the next Sam Tompkins. You want to be the next Will Pryce, because the way you're going, the world is your oyster. But that's high praise, isn't it, at your age?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at Sam now getting further on into his career, he's probably still one of, if not the best player in Super League at the moment. And for me personally, he's always been an idol on the rugby pitch to watch. And even now, me and my dad still talk about him, and look at what he's doing now. And even what he was doing at the start of his career when he was my age, and when he come onto the scene, he were unplayable at times. So to hear that from Watto, it's really humbling. And to be honest, he probably won't ever say that to me face to face, because he likes me to work hard and in all fairness, he gives me praise when I need it. But man management is great, and he always talks to me about working hard and little things I can improve on and work on and learn from. Even in the games like last night, we chatted after the game and just talked about little things I can work on for the next week or whenever I play again. So it's really nice to hear from him, and it's really humbling.
He never gave you praise, Mark, did he? He just blew your legs off all the time.
Next point, yeah. 5 years I got my legs blown off by him. But I think Will's probably in a really unique and great position with where he's at the minute at Huddersfield, because he's got Ian Watson, who is one of the smartest coaches I've ever worked with, who used to be a halfback, and I know Luke Robinson's doing a lot of work there at Huddersfield, and they were two players who I think got smarter during their careers when they played, especially Luke, and the very, very smart coaches on the way that halfbacks are supposed to work in terms of fixing defenders, how to ball play, timing, depth. And what I've seen from Will from the few games I've managed to watch him was that he's naturally an instinctive player where he's prepared to take on the line. A lot of young halfbacks come into the game and they play too far off the line. They don't commit defenders. They don't want to get the shirt dirty. But what I've seen from Will is really prepared to take on the line and test defenders. And, that natural instinct and natural ability paired with, some wily old foxes in Watson and Luke Robinson. And obviously his dad, he's got a really good opportunity to build a nice career there at 18 years old.
Leon, if we could be really nosy, what is your relationship like with you and Will? Because it looks fantastic, and look, Will's obviously got his head screwed on. Everyone from the outside, you'd imagine, will be saying, "Oh, we've got to keep him grounded," and so on and so on. Have you found that you've had to do that, and how do you go about doing that and manage that situation when he's such a big talent for the future, but you need to be one step at a time?
Yeah, I think relationship-wise, I'd say I'm the hard one on him. I'm really hard on him, but I've got no problem doing that. If he don't like me for it, one day he'll thank me for it, I hope, just like I thank my dad for it now, because if he gets a bit too big for his boots, he'll definitely still not too big to get a clip. I will clip him right around his head. But, no, his mum, he's a mummy's boy. He's a mummy's boy. His mum absolutely spoils him rotten and idolises him. And I've got to be the one that stays tough on him. I've got to tell him straight. But at the same time, between me and Wales, it's like, this is just what it is. It's not personal. If you miss a tackle or you're in the wrong position or you've not worked hard enough or you've not done this, that's the game. That don't mean it's anything personal. You know, I think for me growing up, playing rugby, you play rugby, you go on that field for 80 minutes, you turn into a different person. And whatever goes on that field, it's not personal. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just that game is what you need to talk about. And then when it's done, we have a chat about it and get on with life. But for you guys who've got kids, we're no different. I just want him to do well on the field, off the field, and I've just got to try and guide him. And I've messed up loads in my life, and parenting's the hardest job in the world. I find it hard not to make mistakes every day. I'm an idiot at times, but I've still got to try and show my son the right way, the right path. If that's my main job in life now. My days are done. It's just I just want the best for him, as any dad does.
I think at 18 years of age as well, to go into a rugby league dressing room and be playing every week, you've got to grow up really quickly. So a lot of lads who are Will's age might be, going on the piss all the time, or they might be doing this, they might be doing that. When you go into a rugby league environment, it's just full of alpha males, and you just got to grow up really quickly, or you just get found out. So I'm sure, you've got to be accountable, you've got to be honest, you've got to own up to your mistakes, whether that's missing a tackle, being late for training. There's nowhere to hide. And I remember going into a dressing room at 18, 19, 20, and I think you go from a kid to a man very quickly, and I think it's hard to do at times, but I think it's the best thing for you.
I was just going to say to Will, well, yeah, what's that like? That Mark said that. I mean, Wilco said it loads on this podcast before as well, that when he was at Saints, and obviously there was expectation on him and he was there as a kid, there were some people who just weren't having him, and they looked at him and they were just like, get the fuck out of here, mate. You're not going to make it. Have you had that sort of, have you had lurking eyes in the dressing room at Huddersfield and on the training ground?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think, obviously, when I first come in around January time, it's probably one of the most nervous I've ever been in my whole life. I was shitting bricks, to be honest, and I didn't really know what was going to come from it. Me and one of my other good mates who Flash knows, Fenton Rogers, me and him went in at the same time. So,
yeah.
Lucky enough for me, me and Fenny are really close, and we always have been since we were about 15. So, lucky for me, me and him kind of stuck with each other for the first couple of months, and he's I back him in a scrap, to be fair. So if anybody started, he'd usually start back on them, especially in training. I've seen it a few times where he's just gone and taken people's heads off in training, and
you won't do that.
No, I won't do that. I won't do that. So for me, we're more about just learning and listening to what people say. If I do something wrong and someone sprays me, that's just rugby. Get on with it, and it's not personal. So if someone were to spray me, and I've been sprayed loads of times, you just take it on chin and learn from it. The whole experience for me is to just make mistakes and learn from them, and just keep improving.
Yeah, go on, Leon. What were you going to say, mate?
I was just saying. I was just trying to say, like, the way that I grew up in Bull, I came through Bradford Bulls in 96, 97, and the guys I had to come through into the first team changing room were Brian McDermott, James Law, Stuart Spruce, Bernard Dwyer, Matt Calland, Warren Jowett. And if you came into that first team environment, first team change room with any kind of ego, you thought you were good. You come even with an half decent pair of trainers or an haircut that were a little bit flashy, they would kick you out and you won't be in the change rooms and you won't come through. And if you were a kid and you had something to say back to them, you get punched. You get absolutely smashed. So that's how I grew up. You respected your elders. You showed them that you respected them, and you earned the respect by playing good, training hard, kept your mouth closed, and just did what you were told. And I've kind of tried to give that to Wills, like listen to your senior players, be quiet, shut up and listen. And I think the old school mentality is probably gone now. I don't know what it's like. When I was kind of getting to All FC 2015, 16, it was going. The world changes, the game changes, and you move on and adapt. But I think it's still good to have a few old school traits.
Mm. Look, I want to get on to those Bradford Bulls days, because I mean they are just incredible moments for you, and I want to talk about those and reminisce a bit. But Will, I know you've said you've been compared to your dad your whole life, and obviously, you know, the position you're playing as well at the moment, there are similarities, but you're your own player as well. I read a quote, I think, from you saying that you've been told the only reason you are where you are today is because of your dad. So there are going to be plenty of people throwing sticks around like that, aren't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had that since I was about 11 when it started to get really competitive in amateur rugby. There's been players, there's been parents that have come up to me and said stuff to me. There's fans in every game I've played so far that have said stuff to me. People on social media. There's everything. All sorts get said, but I take no notice of it. You know, I've worked hard enough to get where I am now, and you know, just because he's pushed me and he's helped me, and luckily enough for me, he's been there and done it all, and he can give me advice which maybe some other parents can, which is awesome for me. You know, it's never been him who's gone out and gone and lifted weights, or gone and done running sessions on a field, or gone and done it on the field when I've done it. So for me, it's about if someone has something like that to say to me, it's you can come go watch yourself. It's been me who's done it. He can give me as much help as he wants, but as soon as it comes onto a pitch, it's me by myself. And I'm sure if I were only here because of him, then I'd be found out pretty quick.
Does it motivate you that, Will? Like hearing that? Because I know it did for me. Like my old man wasn't as good as Leon, but he was a decent player. But anyone who used to say that, it used to really fucking get on my tits. And then especially in a game or at training, it just spur you on a little bit. And I think probably until I've reached the top of my career, it's probably motivated me a little bit.
I don't want to speak too much, but I think we've had the opposite. If I'm speak honestly and truthfully, I think there's been times when, because he has been my son, people have been a little bit intimidated, and they don't like it, because I think a lot of scouts and a lot of top job people were bringing rugby players through, like the young boys, to completely live off every word they say and idolise them. I don't know if Will's. I think he's a really level-headed, good boy. He's far more level-headed than I was. I don't know if it intimidates him a little bit having a dad who's been there, done it. Because he didn't kind of get a lot of attention. He had to work really hard. He only had 2 clubs that came in for him, that Huddersfield and Wakefield, and nobody else was interested. So it's not like everybody wanted him and he was some kind of young superstar prodigy. He's had to absolutely work his nuts off to get where he is. And I think a lot of that, I don't know if people are intimidated, because he's not a bad lad. You know, he's a good kid. He's a nice boy. Yeah. You know, and if you're not worshipping some of these scouts, then they don't want to know. Idiots.
Yeah. I mean, look. I imagine when Will was looking at the family tree, he was thinking, "I'd be absolutely mental not to go into rugby league," because Leon, your family has been absolutely blessed when it comes to rugby league. You know, rich history in the sport. Obviously, your younger brother, but cousins, and not just players, but coaching brains as well within the Pryce family.
Yeah, it's just part of our life. Flash will be exactly the same. It's what we do is we train during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, and on Sunday we play a game, and then we go to a rugby game. So it's just natural progression. My dad did it with me. He did it on the weekend. Me and my brother did it. Eventually, my brother went to Bradford and Wigan, and William's been brought up around that. So it's not like something we think about. It's just that's what we do. When we sat down this afternoon watching telly, we watched that NRL 24/7, and we just sat and watched 2 or 3 games and sat and talked about players, and he's going there. I might sound a bit sad, but it's what we enjoy. It's just part of life.
That's what we do in my family.
Yeah, that's what we do. We just talk about rugby. We talk about who's going here, who's on this money, who's on that money. He's a good player. He looks like he could go there. Oh, boom, he's struggling at the moment. We're going to doing this, and that's just part of his everyday talk, everyday life. It's part of us. It's who we are.
I mean, look, Leon, let's get on to those Bradford days, because I mean, you became the youngest player in Bradford's history at the age of 16. I mean, Will's got something to live up to there. He was 2 years in front of you, Will. Sorry about that. In 1998, and then he went on to win every domestic honour, didn't he, Leon? At your hometown, you're an integral part of that. Well, one of the most successful teams in Super League. The 2002, the 2004 World Cup challenges, the 2003, 2005 grand finals. You won the Harry Sunderland Trophy as well. I mean, incredible.
Sounding fantastic.
There's a bigger list. I mean, that's just the highlights, isn't it? But Mark, you remember watching that Bradford team, and I imagine, Leon, you think back and you will just take those memories to the grave with you.
yeah, it's like looking back now it's done. I'm dusted and I've walk around on one leg and I'm 4 stone overweight and my body's absolutely ruined. I can look back in them times now and just feel very lucky. I'm very lucky because when I played for Bradford, we were getting 24,000 at home against Leeds. If you compare that to Super League nowadays, I mean, there were players that were coming over. There were Adrian Lamb, Matty Johns, Renoff, the big players, some of the very, very big players, you know, Joe Vangenaar at Bradford, Andy Paul, Robbie Paul, they were playing in Super League. So the competition back then, to play for Bradford Bulls with 18,000, your hometown stadium against Leeds, or 24,000, we go to Edley on a Friday night and there'd be 20,000 there. I'm lucky I came through in that era where, you know, the profiles of some of the rugby lads back then, you know, your Andy Farrells, Martin Fires, and then eventually went on to like, you know, Sculthorpes and Sean Longs. The profile, the Sky and the fans and the package, it gave players a profile. And the competition back then were fantastic, whereas nowadays, so it's kind of with COVID and everything that's happened, it's kind of dropped off a bit. So I just feel very lucky that when I came through from on my hometown team, they were top of Super League, winning trophies, the game was thriving. It was just about timing. I couldn't have had a better time to come through into Bradford at all. Like if we're coming through now and playing for Bradford in First Division with 3,000-4,000 fans, it won't be the same, would it?
No. Mark, you just missed Leon, didn't you, at Saints, I think, by a year, but you obviously played against him, and, you know, Leon had an incredible career at Catalan and Hull FC and finishing off, of course, back at Bradford as well. What was it like coming up against him?
Well, actually, I came through at Bradford in those mid-2000s and left when I was 18. So I remember training with and around Leon and all the superstars he spoke of. I remember actually playing in an academy match in the under-21s. And one lad came with some new boots. They were sparkling new boots. And they had William written on the side. And I was like, you're called Matt. Why have you got William on your boots? He went, oh, they're Leon Pryce's. They don't fit him. So he's given them to me and that's his son's name. And I was like, all right. So that I've known for a long time about Williams. So that was 2006, I think it was. But we used to back then. The young lads used to train against the first team and get slapped around, and we'd be holding tackling bags all day. But you know, to see some of the superstars and be around them was pretty special. And then playing against Leon, it was hard work to play against because he was so big and strong. He had this massive handoff that he just palm you off in the face and go past you most times. So you know, to play against him was great, and you know, I think he got the better of me quite a few times, to be honest.
I think back then though, I think it was. I mean, I remember Flash coming through at Bradford when just a young kid, and then when you're in and around it, like me personally, like you're a different person, aren't you? From now, we're young, cocky. You know, you're driven. You want to prove yourself, and I think then like when you play against each other, like when Saints and Wigan played against each other when you were at Wigan, or I think you playing some really good rugby when you were at Wigan. You don't like each other. You're into each other. You want to smash each other. That's what it was. It's like we want mates. We won't send each other messages on social media going, "How you doing, mate? You all right? See you at weekend. Good game, well played." It was. Yeah. Let's absolutely smash these lot idiots, knobheads. Let's get into this prick and let's smash him. You know, let's have it. It's not like you don't show each other respect. You've got respect, but you don't show it to them. And that's what our era were about.
Yeah, and it's good for you. I think it's bred something in me that competitive edge, that old school mentality, and you know, I think it might be lost a little bit in the game now. It's not as much like that. I mean, we saw last week on Super League Bentley and John Bateman going at each other, and
it was great, wasn't it? Great.
It's great, and that used to happen every week, whether it's Stuart Fielding and Barry McDermott or Barry McDermott against everybody every weekend. You know, there was that kind of confrontation, those like headlines, that like narrative going into a game, it's him against him. Whereas now I think it's a different sport, and unfortunately, you know, they probably don't have those stories to kind of to tell and to play during a match. But I remember, I got on the back of a few sprays against Leon and the other lads, and just that's just the game. That's just the game. You've got to get on with it and play hard.
Yeah. Leon, I know you've talked about having a very different, you know, childhood to one Will's got now. Just tell us a little bit about that, and also then sort of fast forwarding, I guess, to when you retired in 2017, because you did have your struggles, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I grew up. My mum and dad were very, very working class. Never had much money. 2-3 bedroom terraced house in Bradford, which is obviously quite a deprived area. And everything that we've ever got in lives, we've all had to work damn hard for it. We've never been given a penny. We've not grown up with anything. So obviously it was a struggle for us growing up. We didn't go on, luxurious holidays. I think we went abroad once in my whole life, maybe twice in my whole life. And yeah, we got it. I'm not complaining. It brought me up very grounded and made me the person I am today. And the difference is, I've grown up around rugby, being paid very, very well my whole career. So William's never had to go without. He's always had whatever he wanted, which is what you want to do for your kids, isn't it? Especially when you've grown up with not much, you think to yourself, if you've ever got money, I'm going to bring my kids up to have things that they want. I'm not going to go without things that they would really like we did. But it's just different, isn't it? It's just different, and yes, I wouldn't change it for the world. William's story will be far different to what mine is as he's grown up. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how much you want to get into it, and I don't know how much you two talk about it. So tell me to shut up if you don't want to talk about it, Leon. But I think it was quite public. You had some issues with drinking, and I think you were in a pretty bad place having retired because you struggled with that transition out of the professional game into post rugby life.
Yeah, I just can't think back on my mind. I always knew because I basically built my whole personality was rugby. I was always Leon. I've always been like Leon Pryce, rugby player, and I think for me it was a struggle giving that up and having no identity other than playing the game. And yeah, it just became. I didn't prepare for it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always assumed I'd just stay within the game. I thought I knew that many people, and there's that many jobs out there within the game that I'd just automatically go into coach, what have you. And I just didn't prepare for it. And then and then I didn't even think I'd finished playing. And my knee got to a point where it was that bad. I just had to retire because that got on top of me, and just all got on top. And yeah, it was difficult. And because you're coming from a rugby mentality where you don't ever tell if you get hurt, you don't tell people. If you're in pain, you don't talk about it. You just get along with it and you try and mask it up and you get on with it. And I've done that all my life. I'm a very, very private person. I don't speak to anybody about anything in my life. And then when that all builds up, and then you come to the end of your career and that's all built up, then I just exploded. My brain exploded. I couldn't carry on carrying everything around me what I were carrying at the time. So yeah, it was difficult for a couple of years, but we're over that now.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and I know it's not all about ego, particularly when it comes to you, but I mean, Mark, you're experiencing this now because this is your first season having not played professional rugby league for however long. And Leon, was it like when people aren't talking about you, when you're not reading about yourself in the rugby league pages, when you're not seeing all the highlights of you scoring tries, when people in the pub aren't talking about you anymore, I guess that's when the reality hits. When hold on, I've got another. I mean, you're still in your 30s now, so there's a long way to go.
40 in a month.
Yeah. So I imagine that's the reality check, isn't it?
Yeah. It's, well, for me, the big thing is that one, like you were saying there, the identity, being this locally in Bradford, pretty well known in the rugby circle. So you've got that kind of. It is like a bit of a false ego, isn't it? It's a character that you kind of build, and then also it was a coping mechanism. I think that's the big thing I've come to understand now is that any pressures through my life, whether that be financial, relationship problems. Any issues that I had when I went and played rugby, that was my main coping mechanism. Once I got on that field, I became something else. And for 80 minutes, I could be whacked around. If I scored a try, played well, crowded cheer, won. But for them 80 minutes, once you come off that field, you feel like then I don't know. You've like justified yourself. I felt like all the problems kind of went away. So when that big coping mechanism went, no training, no physical activity. And then you couldn't play the game. I think that's when I didn't. And like you say, you could drink more because you're not playing. You don't have to train, so you don't. It's not like you have to be up early training in the morning. I just got into a bad routine, and my coping mechanism had gone, and I had to find different strategies, a way of dealing with life. Really,
I think that's interesting what Leon says there, because I think when you play sport, if you're dedicated and you get to a top level, you have to absolutely immerse yourself in it. Your sport, rugby league, has to become your life. So if you do play well on a weekend and you have a good game, nothing else matters as much. That's why Leon was saying there, your coping mechanism, as long as that's going all right, that 80 minutes at a weekend, really, you feel like you can deal with everything else, because that's not as important as as that 80 minutes and that match and achieving things and doing your team proud and doing it for the club. And I think that's one thing I've found is when you play sport, that for every player in that team, the highlight of the week and the most important thing of that week isn't the relationships with the missus or seeing the kids as much or other stuff going on in their life. It's all about that match on a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, Will, you're in such a great place, really, because you've got someone like your dad giving you this advice, having been there and done it, and look, as he said, made his own mistakes, which everyone's going to do in any walk of life. And it seems weird that at the age of 18, we're talking about you thinking about post-rugby life, because it's all very much fresh and at the beginning, and it's so exciting for you at the moment. But I guess you've got your dad ramming that down your throat. I mean, he said earlier the best advice he could give you is keep your mouth shut and crack on with things. But he's also going to be looking out for you and telling you that you've got to have a plan B, C, and D set up just in case.
Yeah, it's not really just him telling me. I've seen it firsthand what it did to him when he retired and what type of place he was in. And for me, especially when that were happening, it wasn't a nice thing to see. So for me, it's kind of like you don't really want to put yourself through that. I know that it must have been a real mental battle for himself and. To see him come out of it the other side, it's proud for me and the family to see how well he's doing now. And I think that just kind of makes you put everything into perspective. You know that rugby's not going to last forever. If you're lucky, you might get a long 15 to 20 year career. If not, then you're done and you're looking for work. So even now, I've just finished. We've just finished a college course that we do for Huddersfield, and 2 weeks after that, we were talking about university courses and degrees that we can kind of look at for me to get into, whether that's sporting or business or somewhere along the lines of some sort of education for me to look at, so that when I retire from rugby, hopefully if I have a good career and a long career, then I'll have something to fall into and I won't have to worry about any financial problems or what's happening in my life at that moment, because I'll have things to fall back on and set up for me through myself that which is the plan.
Which is like Wilco and Flash have done, and that's the example, is that, they've set up businesses, coffee business doing fantastic, bakery business is doing well, and I look at them guys and I just think that's brilliant, it's fantastic that they've got something in place, and you realise when you get to 35, 6 and you retire, you're not even halfway through your life. You think that rugby league's massive, you've not even got halfway through your life, and it's something I didn't realise, and when I look at, say, Mark, Wilco, any ex-players that are doing well for themselves, I'm absolutely buzzing for everybody, because you've got another life to live, and I don't want to see anybody that's bashed their bodies and their heads around for 15 years end up in a bad place. It's nice to see guys thriving. That's what I do.
The one thing it was when I was 16, 17, 18, I always did well at school, probably similar to Will, but there was probably a period 2 or 3 years where I had a couple of injuries, and as ambitious as I was at that age, there was a good chance I wouldn't have made it. So that's why I kind of stuck at my education for as long as I could until my rugby career kicked off. But there was a good chance I might not have made it just due to not being good enough. So I had to kind of cover my ass there. And when I did set up my business, it was in 2013 when John and I set up the coffee shop. I'd tore my cruciate in my knee. Again, there's a chance you can't come back from that injury because it's pretty serious. So I'd 6 months out, and I kind of thought, well, I've got 6 months sat on my arse here. I can either do something productive and try and set something up for when I finish, because I might finish next year, I might finish in 10 years. So I'd probably use that time well. But what I'd say to other players who are playing now is not wait till the end of the career, then decide what they want to do. Maybe just start, thinking about stuff during the career and maybe do it simultaneously. Because that's one thing I found was I didn't stop playing rugby one day and then decide what to do the next. It was always kind of, I did the two at the same time, and then one put on the back burner, stopped playing rugby, then took the other one forward. And I think for my mental health, it's been really important because, like Leon says, I don't feel like I've retired. I feel like I've just changed jobs a little bit more.
Mm. And Will, what was that like? Because you touched on it there and said it was difficult, just being around the house. Because I imagine you would have been sort of 14, 15 when your dad hung up his boots. And I guess, you just want to give him a big hug and sort of say, come on. But it's, it's something I guess you will understand in 20 years' time down the line. When you think that your dad had a 19-year playing career, I mean, that's your lifetime and another year on top. When you look at it like that, it's pretty mental.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean, even being around like the rugby environment now, there's players that are coming to the end of their careers and setting businesses up and going through problems outside of rugby that they don't necessarily want to bring into rugby, but you can tell some days they have good days, some days they have bad days, and you want to try help them as much as you can. So having that in your personal life, you want to kind of help him out as much as I could. And like I said, he's a very private person, whether that's obviously within rugby or within himself, and the stuff that it's not for me and him to talk about or that he might want to share with me. And I suppose I were a bit too young to really fully understand it there, and there were things that were probably kept away from me. But as I grew older and I started to really understand, and we've spoke about it openly, whether that's me and him or me and my mum, and sat down and spoke about stuff and maybe thought of plans that obviously it's a learning curve, and for him it's about what he could do then to get better and slowly try to move on from that, and which he has done luckily. And for me it's just about really learning what to do and what not to do. Yeah.
What not to do.
Yeah.
No, keep your head. Don't lose it like your dad.
I love it. I mean, I mentioned that one of the bits of advice was keeping your mouth shut, but I know there's more to it than that. But what is the best advice your dad's given you, if you think on the spot?
Just enjoy it. I think in terms of rugby, it's every week he usually takes me to the game or takes me to training, and we'll speak about it in the car on the way over, or whether it's a day before the game, an hours before the game, if he sends me a text message, or we're watching the game back. It's just enjoy it. Like you say, rugby doesn't last forever, so I think a lot of people, not just only him, but whether it's players that I'm playing with or played against, have kind of said the same thing about enjoy the moments that you're in now, and especially in your young career when you're coming through, this is one of the most enjoyable parts. And for me, that's what I've tried to do. It's been every week, whether I'm playing and I've had maybe not my best game, or I've happened to have a really good game. It's been about enjoying it, because I look at players that I've played with in the academy not 6 months ago, that died to be in my position now, and probably tear off an arm and a leg to just be where I am. So it's about just me being thankful and grateful and enjoying where I am.
I guess at the same time, Will, though, you have to, it's a balance for you right now, isn't it? Because everyone's sort of trying to keep your feet on the ground, and because you're 18 and whatever, but people have had a glimpse of what you can do. And I guess you have to have, especially with the position that you play in as well, whether it's going to be fullback long term or not, you've got to have a bit about yourself, and you've got to have that cocky side, and you've got to have that ego, because that's the edge that you play on, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's misjudged at times. Like you mentioned earlier about like scouts and parents or people who watch from the outside in. A lot of people viewed me as quite a cocky person, whether that were on the field and how I played. But for me, it's more confidence. And he spoke about it. He spoke about it from when I was younger. And I remember him once saying to me, like, if you're not confident in yourself, who else is going to be confident in you? You've got yourself to back first. And for me, it's about being confident and knowing in my own head that if I think that I can do this, or I can beat him, or I can make a change here, I can do something different, and I'm confident in myself, then it might come out as cocky at times, but that's just the way of going about it. And I think that if I wouldn't have gone about it the same way I have done, coming through and especially getting my debut and playing games, and if I hadn't been as confident as I has been, then I definitely wouldn't be in the position I am today.
I think it's brilliant. If I was playing with Will and he was coming through and he had all this talent, but he wasn't prepared to back himself, I'd be in his ear telling him to be cocky, telling him to be confident. Obviously, he's a grounded kid, and I think that on-field persona and off-field persona is very different. But for that 80 minutes, I'd tell him to be cocky as hell, back yourself, because he'd be one of the most talented.
Difficult though, flashing it though, because like all you get in social media, especially in rugby league, is he's not humble. Watch him, make sure you're down to earth. Ooh, look at him, he looks a bit cocky. Look at him. Anybody that's a little bit brash, you always get pulled down. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line between being confident.
But I think during the week, as long as you're not cocky, then if you go into Tesco's walking around like your shit don't stink, that's a bit different. But I think on the field, when you've got all this talent and you need to kind of let it go and you need to back yourself, I think you can be a bit cocky and confident. But as long as it's not, dripping into the other parts of your life where you might not sign someone's autograph, or you talk to someone beneath perceived as being beneath you,
Oh, it's not
like
like
a piece of
that,
shit.
no, it's not
Which
like
I know it's not like that, but some people are like that, aren't they? And some
yeah.
people can get too in love with themselves, and that confidence on the field can be put onto their own lifestyle. But I think as long as it's just for that 80 minutes or when you're at training, backing yourself, I think it's brilliant, especially for a playmaker.
100%.
I mean, Will, what is it like? Because I've got so much respect for you, really. And I know I'm not trying to belittle you by saying, oh, you're only 18, because you're a man and you're doing what you're doing. But, there's so many 18-year-olds now who've got their, and we've talked about this with Wilco, their head fucking stuck in a computer game all day long and they've never set foot outside. To be doing what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And to have the pathway there, I guess it's almost like only you can make this not work now. It's down to you. And obviously, getting the opportunities and so on. But you are in the age and the culture of social media, which your dad wasn't, and it's a very, very different world, isn't it? And that is such a huge part, whether we like it or not, of being a sportsman or a woman in this modern age.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think it kind of influences right from the core. Like you were saying, when him and Flash were coming through about you kind of hated each other, and it's sort of gone out of the game now. With social media and stuff, you're following each other on Instagram, you're seeing what each other's posting. Half at times you see each other out, or you might see each other at like a shopping centre, whether that's local or if you're going far away. You see each other, and because you know each other through rugby, you kind of you speak to each other. And I know there's players in the Super League when I made my debut, or like you saw Sam Tompkins come up to me and shook my hand. Like it's people, I guess, kind of just try to be nice and try to give you a message just to try and make sure you're kind of enjoying where you are. So I think now it's a bit different. I think everybody wants to have their own persona about them, whether that's on social media or on their Instagram, and taking photos of them out and about with loads of people and kind of showing off. But there's players that, like for me, especially coming through, like I've got all social medias and I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram every day and seeing what everyone's doing. But realistically, outside of that, my life's quite boring. I don't go out. I go out rarely. If I'm going out, it's to go out for something to eat, or I'm going to watch a movie or going to the cinema. I don't go out and I don't drink. I don't go out to nightclubs. And I'm not the most social butterfly, but that's just because I know what I want to do and where I want to be in 10 years time, 5 years time. So for me, it's the dedication part. It doesn't really come hard. Whereas some other players can find it quite hard because you see photos that all your mates are putting on social media. You see your mates going out every weekend and going to festivals like Leeds Fest this weekend, and people going to nightclubs every weekend and drinking. And people want to do that, and that's no. I'm not a person to judge. You can do what you want, but for me, it's never been like that. So I guess you can kind of see where people come from, through social media, and how it can sort of take people off track. Definitely down the line.
It's a fine line, Mark, isn't it? Because look, I've interviewed so many Premier League footballers who had it all when they were kids, at Will's age, 18, 19, 20, they get that contract. And I know the money's completely different, but I'm just, I'm comparing it in terms of, you're talking about a Premier League footballer who, even at that age, would be on 20, 30 grand a week. And then, they're buying the flash cars, they're out shagging, they're doing this, and they're sticking stuff on Instagram, and all things you want to be doing as a kid. Let's face it. But there is that.
I wish I were doing that now.
But I mean, Will, that's what you've got. You have to enjoy it, because you can't just be, because you'll go absolutely crazy, stir crazy if it's military. You've got to have some times to release and to let all the steam off and so on. But you've got someone in your corner there to your right hand side who is telling you, look, don't make this mistake, don't do this, which is amazing advice to be able to have in your position.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been times in my life where I've probably not been as dedicated as I should have been, and that's no fault of my own. Just me maybe switching off at times, and I've had a rough period, like 6 months at a time, where I've kind of switched off and maybe not being as dedicated as I had, and eating bad foods and not training as much. But it's about, like I said, reining it back in for me and keeping me grounded and telling me and telling me what I need to do. And there's I still go and enjoy myself. Still go out and enjoy myself. Whether that's to go grab something to eat. Like played last night and went and saw my mates from amateur who I still hang about with now. But they know I might not see them for another couple of weeks now, because I'll be training every other day, and I won't go out. I won't go out on weekends, whether that's because I've got the game next day. But you know, he's told me about it ever since I've grown up, and he'll tell me what I kind of need to do and not to do this and not to make mistakes. And but at the end of the day, it's what I do, and he could say as much as he wanted to if I chose to do something else and happen to get myself in trouble.
You're getting knocked out, lad. He's not got a choice.
School of hard knocks.
He's not got a choice. He's got. I know that I've listen. I want a good trainer. I want a rubbish trainer. But back in my days, you could just play. You could play if you were a good player and you had the talent, which I did. You could get by. My talent took me so far, but if I'd have been more dedicated into my training, into recovery, into that, there were no sports science back in my day. That didn't go in for the last 5 years of my career, but I know I could have achieved far more than what I did. People always say to me, "Oh, Leon, you've had a brilliant career. You've done this," and I always think, "Yeah, oh, thank you, I appreciate it." But I know I could have done far better than what I did. I could have been a far better player. I got the athleticism and rugby knowledge to go and be one of the best players in the world over a long period of time. If I had a trainer dedicated himself fully, I got a bit carried away with myself when I was at Bulls, thinking I was better than what I was. I don't want him to make that mistake. I know I don't want him to finish his career and have regrets like I have. I still sit and regret not fully dedicating my life to rugby, and I don't want him to have made that mistake. If he keeps on now, keeps on it and keeps driving, when he's 34, 35, luckily, God willing, he can sit back in his career and go, you know what, I've got the maximum out of my career. I didn't get the maximum out of my career. God's honest truth, I could have got far more out of my career, far more. But that's a regret. When I look in that mirror, and it's only you can't lie to yourself, I say, Leon, did you do the best you could? No, I didn't. I could have done far better. If I'd fully dedicated my life to the game. And I don't want him to have that mistake. If he can just sit and go, I'll give my everything, and I've given my lot, and that's what it is, I know he'll be okay.
Well, that's a scary prospect, given everything that you won and that list, which I'll probably still be reading out had you not stopped me, Leon, about 20 minutes ago. You did all right. You did bits, as they say these days. I mean, look, say that you do everything that you can and you put everything into rugby league that you possibly can. How, in 20 years' time, when you're 38 years old, do you want to be looking back on your career? I mean, we mentioned the stuff that your dad won. Surely it's aiming for the stars. It's winning Harry Sunderland trophies. It's winning the biggest titles in the sport.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was younger, watching him play, like, he's lucky enough for him, he's played then at Bradford and then at Saints, which were two of the best two teams of that time. So for me, watching it, were almost like to be winning Super League nearly every other year and being grand finals and being challenged. That's the norm. But I've now realising how actually hard it is to get into a grand final and how hard it is to get into a Challenge Cup final and how long seasons are and how bad your body feels after games and how quick turnarounds are for different games, and you realise how tough it is to be. So for me, I'd love to win everything that he's won and go and win grand finals and Challenge Cups, and now I realise how lucky that is. So yeah, of course, any kid who wants to be a rugby player and gets brought up around the sport and is lucky enough to play it, wants to win everything. And for me, I've always been a competitor and I've always wanted to win. So even to win one, never mind however many he's won, it'd just be nice,
And well, what position do you see yourself playing? What's your favourite position?
Well, for me, probably fullback. I mean, obviously getting the opportunity to play halfback in Super League, I'd play any position, whether that were wing, centre, fullback, halfback. I'd play anywhere, but long term, hopefully, if I can develop right, it'd be to move into fullback. And like nowadays, you see, the fullbacks like Tom Trebojevic and James Tedesco, Sam Tompkins, even young ones like Niall Evans and the young boys coming through. Fullback is starting to be like the prime position, the money position, and that's where I want to be. And I suppose. Being 18 and playing Super League at halfback, that can only help it more. Instead of just being a runner, having the experience of having ball handling skills at Super League level and organisation skills and stuff, it can only help it. So I'm obviously to play any position, I'm not bothered. But for me to move forward, I'm hoping to play fullback at some point.
And which players, like you mentioned a few though, do you look at and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind being a bit. I know you want to be your own player, but which players kind of inspire you and kind of you really look to as a top in the game at that position?
obviously it's hard, like for me, like watching the most exciting players that are going to do something crazy or create something like Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic, you watch them and you think, wow, I want to be able to do stuff like that. And maybe
Tompkins over here.
No, over here, 100%
Tompkins.
Tompkins. Like the stuff he's doing, not so much on the ball. It's more off the ball when I watch him play. Like when I made my debut against Catalan, I went and watched that game back maybe 3 or 4 times. When I come on and we're watching, they happened to go down like 11 to 12 men, and some of the stuff that he was doing, whether that were counting his numbers and putting defensive players there, it was ridiculous. And then on the flip side, when he's attacking, he's breaking tackles, stepping people, and I'm watching him doing that every week. So it's kind of looking at what he's doing and probably trying to just take stuff from his game and add it into mine.
Yeah, I mean, my piece of advice for what it's worth is just don't end up playing water boy like Mark Flanagan for the last couple of years. I think he did more miles on that bike on the side than Bradley Wiggins in 4 or 5 Tour de France's. But
William,
I was an Challenge Cup final.
I was an impact player like Joe Vagana and Paul Anderson that Leon Pryce played with.
Look, Mark, tell Will what it's going to be like, because Magic Weekend's coming up, playing at St James's Park. I mean, stadiums like that, incredible. And from a Newcastle fan's point of view, Mark, as well, you were, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a Newcastle fan as a kid. And I think one thing I noticed the first Magic Weekend I played in, because they've always been in big stadiums, is the enormity of it. You walk out maybe at the captain's run or before the match and just look round and see, the size of the stadium. And I think it's just a really good like carnival atmosphere. You see fans from every club there. Everyone's in good spirits, and it's just a really enjoyable weekend. I'd just say, just breathe it all in, take it in, and enjoy it. And if you manage to get a win up there, it's a great journey back with all the boys.
How exciting is that going to be, Will, walking out at St James's?
Oh yeah, can't wait. First. Real big crowd. Lucky enough, I played at Headingley when Rob were there, and Rob come out before the game, and there were 10,000 fans there, and I were amazed just by that. So, look, if I'm lucky enough to play this weekend at Magic Weekend, and we get a good performance and we get a win, it's going to be something you're probably not going to forget for your career, and playing on a stage like that in front of so many fans, just really excited and can't wait.
Get the Alan Shearer celebration going when you cross over. Do that in front of the Gallagher. No, your dad's not having any of that. Go on, Leon. You played quite a few Magic Weekends. Leon didn't even celebrate tries, did he? It was just sort of went back and kicked off again. But Magic special, isn't it, Leon?
It is, yeah. To be honest with you, and this might sound a bit, I can only speak my truth, but my 18th birthday, I played at Old Trafford in front of 80,000 people. Not many people get that privilege. So for me, I played in massive games at 18, huge games. So eventually then when Magic came around, it was like anything from that is kind of down. Like I played at Twickenham against Australia for England in the World Cup in 2000. 80,000 people in a World Cup game against Wendell Saylor on one wing and Rogers on the other wing and Andrew Johns, and so to do that at 18, you kind of only way it can go is down. So by the time Magic came around for me, I kind of overlooked it. But for Wills and people like him, he'll never played in a 50, 60, 70,000 stadium. So you've got to take these moments in. First time in front of a big crowd. Played 9 or 10 games now. Starting to get your foothold into the team. The team just had a good win at weekend. We had a good result against OKR yesterday. So he can really go out there and enjoy himself, enjoy it, and take it in, soak it in the occasion, and play some good rugby.
Will, I love this school of tough love from your dad. He's just like, when I was 18, I was doing this. Get back in your fucking box, son.
No, yeah, he reminds me about it all the time. I'm sitting here now listening to him talk to you a lot about it, but it's what I experience every other day. So
I just think won't forever forget about it.
No, yeah, that's what it reminds me. It's all time reminders. So you guys only hear it for an hour, but I get it 25-8. So it's one of them.
Well, look, I think it's working, mate. I think whatever he's doing is working, or whatever you're both doing, something's working. I mean, Leon, I've heard you, and tell me if I'm wrong. It was only a couple of years ago you were doing a bit of coaching, weren't you, at Workington?
Yeah.
And you said that maybe your coaching career is kind of on the back burner because you want to be going and watching Will play every week. You want to be involved in his life and in his career. I mean, is that still the case? I mean, surely the dream job for you would be getting Bradford Bulls into Super League, wouldn't it?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know if you'd like to see that. I think my head couldn't take coaching Bradford Bulls if I've only just found my head again. I'd be losing it in about 2 seconds if I took over them lot. No, I think like like Flash was speaking about before, when you're a rugby player, you're very selfish, and there's been lots of time. You've got, all you think about is how you are, where's your next meal coming from, getting ready for the game. Sometimes there'd be times when I probably won't even speak to Wills or my wife or my other kids. It's like, all I'm bothered about is that game. Day before the game, don't speak to me. Day of the game, definitely get out of the room. Don't, get out of the house. I'm getting ready for a game. And it's very selfish and very insular. So now it's like, I've had my time. Like last night was brilliant. I went with my wife and my other 2 kids. We just sat in stadium like a normal rugby fan and sat and watched him play and cheered him on. And I've had my time. I've missed weekends. I've been away. Been away and on weekends, missed lots of his amateur rugby because I was playing games. And I just think, I know how important it is for me to be there. So if I'm not working or I can get there, I'll be there every game, every single game. Because my mum did every game I played all my career. So I'll always be there at his games, always.
Brilliant. Well, look, it's been so good speaking to you two. And it is such a great story, Mark, isn't it? When you think of what Leon's done in his career and the exciting potential ahead for Will.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I've only managed to catch a few of Will's games, but he's obviously an exciting player. He's tough, he's skillful, he's got everything. And I think, with Leon having lived and breathed it all and made some mistakes and made some massive successes, he's got someone just to teach him and not hold his hand, but just be there for him along the journey and offer advice where it needs to be. So, I'm really excited to see how Will progresses, and, I think it's going to be a great story.
Yeah, and look, it's a lesson to people like me. Leon's only 18 months older than me, and he's got an 18-year-old son ripping it up in Super League, and I've got nothing.
Got
no one.
I reckon you've got a few 18-year-olds knocking about, Will.
Probably, yeah.
You don't know about it yet.
That's what will happen. There'll be a couple of 18-year-olds, and they'll be successful, and they'll have no idea who I am, and I'll find out that I am their father, and I'll be knocking on their doors saying, look, hey, I'm going to join the journey now. I'm just going to be the Klingon. I'll be coming to all the stadiums, watching you play. That's the only hope I've got. Listen, boys, so good to speak to you. Will, have a great weekend in Newcastle. Doesn't sound like you're going to be tearing it up afterwards, but I can tell you a few spots to go there. What was that place called, Mark? The Boat? Was it? Do you remember the Boat, the club that was on the river?
I wouldn't be knowing about any of those nightclubs. Will.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I'm not so sure. You remember that? That was the place. Have a great weekend. Have a great season, Will, and I hope it all works out for you, mate, and we'll speak again soon.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
There we go. That was Leon and Will Pryce. Magic coming up this weekend. We'll have another podcast for you with John Wilkin, that stranger, who's going to be back with us, I think, next week. So download it wherever you get your podcast. Give us a little follow on Twitter @OutOfYourRL, and we'll see you next time. Bye.